What do you think, Wally?
I think I would like to be in the lead, only because you may not get back to the checkered before the caution comes out on the last lap.
Now our race analysis for the Coke Zero 400. 160 laps making up the 400 miles. A big pit window here just because there are so many different things that can happen to you over the course of a run. Pit road speed 55 miles per hour. And to the rear, the 9 of Marcos Ambrose. Sam Hornish Jr., who's in that 22 car for A.J. Allmendinger, and that's not the only driver change. It's Michael McDowell now in the 98 for Mike Bliss, who practiced and qualified that car the last couple of days. It's been a long day for all these teams and drivers. And now finally, you get the opportunity to do what you came here to get done. And that's go after a trophy in the Midsummer Classic at Daytona. Matt Kenseth, the pole sitter, elects the outside lane. Lights are off on the pace car. It is on pit road, and we are set to go racing tonight. Under the lights at the World Center of Racing, green flag in the air, and here we go. Say, why did Matt Kenseth choose the outside lane? As you see Denny Hamlin sliding down below the yellow line, down the back straightaway. And by the way, that double yellow line, out of bounds. If you advance your position going below the double yellow line, you will be black flagged by NASCAR if they deemed you were doing it with intent. But Kenseth took that outside lane probably because Greg Biffle, his teammate, was starting fourth, and that put him right behind him. And Kenseth leads the opening lap.
Well, you see these guys working up on the high side already. Looked like they were making some ground there for a little bit.
See Kevin Harvick poking his car out of line.
Somebody
and he's off
down,
the pace, isn't he?
He dropped way down on the line. Like he's getting to the back.
Yep, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, he was just getting out of the way.
Go back there, ride, and make sure you don't have any big problems in the pack.
And again, for everybody at home, you can drive below that yellow line all you want to, as long as you don't advance your position.
Absolutely.
So every time don't tweet everybody and don't call your neighbors when somebody drives below that yellow line unless they advance their position.
What Kevin Harvick was doing there, very smart. Get out of the way and go to the back rather than trying to do it right in the middle of a bunch of race cars. That outside lane right now being led by Juan Pablo Montoya. Red, white, and blue colors this weekend as a part of the NASCAR Unites program. Jimmy Johnson right behind him.
Yeah, we see a guy in the middle right there. We see a car there in the middle, and we saw it work, Kyle, last night in the Nationwide race a lot. And you can do it when you've got fresh tires. Once these tires go off and you get to a corner and you're in the middle, I mean, it feels like Porky Pig waddling around out there.
Yeah, because there's no air in the middle. There's no air at all in the middle. And we saw it for 8 or 10 laps in the Nationwide race when it first started, but then it would go away, and then we'd see the guys get spread out a little bit.
On board here with Jeff Burton, who jumped in the outside lane. He appears to be floating to the back, trying to keep his nose clean early.
Some of these guys they'll catch on to these cars coming up the middle. You see the outside lane, see how Jeff Gordon is running tight on the bottom now. You don't want to leave that any lane open. I mean, especially the middle. At this point, you're looking in your mirror as much as you are looking at the windshield, because you want to make sure the guy behind you isn't going to go on the high side of you to the right. That's why I think the bottom line is a preferred line with a lot of these guys, because you're only going to pass me on one side if I'm on the bottom, and that's to my right. When you're on the high side, you've got to watch your middle, and you've got to watch way on the outside. So you're doing a lot of mirror driving.
Yeah, a lot of mirror driving, and we saw that on Countdown to Green in the interview with Jimmy Johnson when he was with Ned Jarrett and Bill Elliott and those guys. He said when he won down here, he just got to the yellow line and just stayed on the yellow line the whole race. And he thought he was going to run second, and it just opened up, and everything was good for him. Menard looks like he's off the pace right there.
I think that's just another Childress car probably going to the back to join up with Harvick.
And they've all three done it. Jeff Burton did it on the high side. The 27 and 29 did the same.
I mean, I think those guys are just going to sit back there and ride this thing out for a while. I mean, obviously they want to hook up and eventually make their way, but right now they're just going to be comfortable, I think, just hanging out back there and see what develops.
Most of the time when you drop to the back, you don't do it that dramatic. You kind of work your way back there. But just to pull over and slam on brakes to go to the back is a little dramatic.
Matt Kenseth has led every lap tonight. Started on the pole.
Maybe he saw something he didn't like.
Kenseth drafting with his teammate, very similar to what we saw here in Daytona in February when he got the victory in the 500. Wide open race coverage plus real Coke taste and 0 calories. Coke Zero wants you to enjoy everything about tonight's race. Coke Zero is giving fans at home a chance to enjoy everything on every lap in tonight's race that ends in 0. For your chance to win on a Coke Zero lap, text TASTE to 26739 or visit CokeZeroLap.com.
On that outside line, you got almost all the Hendrick cars hooked up. You got Casey Kane there. You got Jeff Gordon, Montoya, and then Jimmy Johnson. Let's see if these guys can make something happen on that outside. So far, it just doesn't look like it's happening.
Saw the Busch brothers work together last night in Nationwide Series competition. Larry, what are you seeing tonight?
Well, what I'm seeing, think about it. There are 3 Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, and already we've seen Denny Hamlin in 11, Joey Logano on the 20 somewhat try to hook up. So that pretty much leaves Kyle Busch, odd man out. Guess who he has found? Remember, his brother Kurt Busch started deep in the field back in the 33rd position up there working with his brother Kyle.
And we should point out as well, Kurt won the Nationwide race here last night.
And these guys will find each other a lot of help from the spotters. You know, you're going to ask your spotter, hey, where is so-and-so? And you could actually work your way to the back to get to who you want to work with. And then you start moving forward again. And you'll see a lot of that going on tonight.
Been an interesting afternoon for Sam Hornish Jr., Chris.
Yeah, Adam, that announcement about A.J. Allmendinger happened at 6 p.m. The team immediately called Sam Hornish Jr. in Charlotte to get him to the racetrack. I checked in with the team at 6:20. They were changing out the seat, the pedals, and also moving the steering column in that car, getting it ready for Sam Hornish. At 6:25, I checked with crew chief Todd Gordon, and he said Sam Hornish was still on the ground in Charlotte, and they were scared that he wasn't going to make it to the racetrack. That was still plan A to get Sam Hornish in the car. Plan B was potentially get Kenny Wallace in that car. But Sam obviously showed up 7:25, made it into the car, made it into the race. Right now, he just said over the radio, guys, I'm just chilling here. The car's working great, just hanging out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, he's run 10 laps, but he's already set. I mean, you don't forget how to do this. But what he did is, you know, he just got in there trying to feel the car out, obviously he hasn't turned a lap here all week. So, you know.
Not in a cup car.
Not in a cup car.
Not in a cup car, exactly. But the advantage that he does have over Kenny was not in the cup or in the Nationwide race last night. Sam was. So the advantage that he does have, he has run the Cup Series in the past, and he does. He was here last night at what, 10:30, 11 o'clock before he went home.
No problems in regard to experience for the 24 team and Jeff Gordon, Matt.
Adam, he's 13th on the board, but he's third in line in the outside lane. And during our countdown the green, Kyle and Wally, they talked about just the lane preference. Going back to the Daytona 500 where the bottom works better than the outside came in. That's exactly what Jeff Gordon is hoping and waiting on right now. Just being patient. He told Eddie DeHunt, his spotter, I'm just going to ride up here with my teammate, and hopefully as the tires start to go away, this lane will really start to come in.
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. I mean, what's going to happen? The handling is going to start coming into these cars. You know, these cars work so good on fresh tires. In the first 10 or 15 laps, you can't do anything wrong with these cars. But as you get some wear on these tires, that's when you'll start seeing cars slide around. And if you've got a good setup, that's where you start making forward ground. So, like you say, they're trying to hang out on that high line, just hoping for some of these tires to wear off so it it settles things down a little bit.
Interesting, in that outside lane, you've got Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon running nose to tail. Both drivers need a win. Kane to help his wild card chances, and Gordon to get back in the wild card conversation.
I don't think that's really probably what they're thinking about.
Not right now.
We are, but that's not what they're thinking about. Again, this part of the race, you like to find your teammates and just kind of ride a little bit, get things, get a good feel for the car, but you won't have a teammate at the end of this thing.
Matt Kenseth is picked up right where he left off. 1 to 500. He's led every lap tonight.
We hadn't talked about it. I think Bill Elliott has picked up right where he left off. I mean, qualified good, and he's stuck up there. We've run 12 laps here, and he's in third. We've seen him qualify pretty good in the past and drop to the back like some of those other guys and wait for that position. But, for the first 10 or 12 laps of the race, this is Bill Elliott of old running up front.
That's the Cup debut for Turner Motorsports. TNT's Wide Open coverage is brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Back in Daytona, bringing you live coverage of the Coke Zero 400 powered by Coca-Cola. And tonight's aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, proudly supporting our military for 100 years. Show your support for our troops at Goodyear.com. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Now, if you're going to win this race, you got to keep the engine cool. It tends to overheat when you get in the draft. Understand the 24 team having some problems, Matt.
Adam, when Jeff Gordon was running in line with his teammate Casey Kane, he told the spotter, please tell Casey, don't drag the brake and back up to me. And then this was some more conversation. He was telling Alan Gustafson on the radio about his engine issues.
I mean, you just can't race, all I do is go get up in there, and then we're going to be warm again. So I just got to keep this gap. There's 10-4. You're doing fine. There's plenty of time here.
Yeah, I think we just need to explain some of the rules that NASCAR has put in place, but the biggest reason is why did they put these rules in place is to bust up the two-driver tandem. But they have a maximum capacity on the radiator at 2 gallons. This is a pressurized water system, and it has a pressure relief valve, and it goes off. It starts spitting water out at 32 PSI. Plus, the grill opening has been moved up into the front bumper area, and you have to run it 2.5 tall by 20 wide. And then also, they have lowered the rear bumpers by 2 inches to block air when a driver is pushing another driver. All these 4 or 5 things was done to bust up the two-driver tandem, guys.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Larry. It was NASCAR made these rules for all these fans on Twitter and all these people that are sitting at home complaining about it. They made these rules to break up the tandem because everybody complained about the tandem. Now NASCAR breaks up the tandem and everybody's complaining about this style of racing. This is a style of racing that we've had for so long where you've got to stay off each other. You have to give each other a little bit of room, and you've got to be able to make a move on your own. It's not team racing. It's individual racing. And right now, these guys are in the early stages of the race, and we've heard some of these guys from the pit reports down here that these cars aren't handling the best. So they're going to make their first pit stops. They'll get their cars driving a little bit better. But we're always going to have an issue with the overheating problems we always have in the past if you run too close to somebody.
Yeah, but don't forget, I mean, we're 30 laps in. I don't want to say these guys aren't trying that hard, but they're not trying that hard.
No,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? They're riding right now. They're just trying to keep their equipment underneath them. They haven't even gotten to their first pit stop yet. So, I mean, now's not the time to be forcing the issue.
You mentioned pit stop. In our race analysis tonight, we said the window somewhere between 44 and 50 laps. Right now, we've completed 33. So sometime next 10, 12 laps, we could see some guys coming down pit road under green. That's a big challenge to get onto pit road and give up position at a high rate of speed. What do you see, Larry?
Well, I've been watching Sam Hornish Jr. in that yellow number 22 car. When we dropped the green flag, he kind of stayed back a little bit. I think he just wanted to get a feel for what was going on out here, even though he ran the Nationwide Series race, started back in the 40th position. He has now cracked the top 20, so I think he's starting to get comfortable with where he's at in this 22 car.
And that's impressive. That is impressive for somebody to show up, and I don't care if he did run here yesterday, like I said, for somebody to show up, change a seat, adjust the pedals, adjust the steering column, and get in a car that you haven't been in and go out and race against these drivers of this caliber. That's impressive that he's come from the back to the front like that.
Wally, easier to do what Sam is doing tonight at a place like Daytona or a place like Kentucky or Bristol?
Oh, absolutely. Daytona, I mean, you know, the cars work pretty good, and you're pretty much flat out around this place. And, you know, Sam's got a lot of laps around here. So, yeah, this is a pretty, if you're going to jump in a car with no practice in a cup car at some racetrack, this is the place to do it.
Can you continue to watch Sam's progress? And we tell you this, TNT's Wide Open coverage brought to you in part by #NASCAR on Twitter.com. Continue to watch that outside lane for Michael Waltrip, and he simply can't do much better than what he's doing right now.
He has been stuck there at about the same spot for the last 15 or 20 laps.
Tell you somebody to keep an eye on. 4 cars behind him. You got Landon Castle and at Burger King number 83. We made the point earlier. If you're in this race, you got a chance to win it. 1 year ago, David Reagan made a name for himself. Perhaps the door is open for Landon Castle tonight, a youngster out of Iowa who has really done a nice job for BK Racing in 2012.
Jump on board here on the 48 car. This is a really cool shot to begin with, but to kind of keep an eye on his gauges, and these gauges will turn red when things start to heat up. If you look at his dash, this gauge over here is turning red, and then we got this one right over here. It's flickering red as well every once in a while. So he's obviously keeping an eye on that, and I don't know how you can't. When it goes red, you can pretty much see it. But he's going to be talking to his team about it, and, you know, obviously monitor, you know, he's got to monitor those temperatures.
And because of the importance of temperature, do you want certain gauges in different places when it comes to a race like this?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, you know, as long as it stays white and it just flicks red, you're doing your job. You're keeping that car cool. That's what's important, is when those gauges go to red and they stay red, then you've got a problem.
Hey, Wally, the most important gauges would certainly be water temperature, and we talked about it being a pressurized system, water pressure. I almost get a feeling that Jimmy Johnson has had his 48 team move those 2 gauges up to the top of the dash, more in his sight line. Now, the other thing you have to be cognizant of when you're on the throttle, as much as these drivers are, is oil temp. That certainly can get up there, and a lot of times that will actually bring the water temp up with it.
Yeah, I can't tell which gauges he's got up there, Larry.
But this is not something you would see at a regular race.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they're definitely wanting to get your attention on what these temperatures are doing. And I've been watching him also. He's sticking his nose out quite a bit. He's dropping back. He's doing a pretty good job trying to get as much air to the front of that car as possible.
The mental aspect of being successful at Daytona and Talladega, simply amazing.
Is that car right outside of you?
And that's interesting. And Wally pointed that out early with those two gauges up there, and we heard Larry say it. You put it in the driver's line of sight, so even if they're not looking at it when it turns red, a lot of these guys, if you go back in racing 10 or 15 years, a lot of teams would put a red light on the dash at Martinsville to make those guys keep their foot off the brake, just to make sure their foot was off the pedal.
You also look at the way he's got his mirrors in this car. This is typically, you know, pretty much the mirror that you run every single week. But this mirror right here, this is giving you a shot of your blind spot.
Yeah.
And that's something here. Listen, your spotters are really important at this racetrack, but you have got to know where the race car is. You got to know where everybody is around you.
Yeah. Again, for the fans at home, that's not a vanity mirror. Okay. Sorry.
And the green flag pit stops are underway. First of the night coming at lap 40. Kyle Busch is in for service. Going to be 4 tires for him. Bobby Labonte right behind him. Kurt Busch, Joey Logano also making stops. Matt?
And Kevin Harvick has already completed his team service on his number 29 machine. He had hung at the back and then got up to about 23rd, so that way, no matter what other team's strategy was, you see a lot of cars have hit pit road. Less cars for him to deal with, and we've got more cars. Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his way in.
They are smoking those tires as they come to pit road to make sure they are not caught speeding, Chris.
Brad Keselowski very happy with the 2 tonight. No changes to that car. It's been running cool. He's happy with it. Going to be fuel tires. Don't know if we're going to go 2 tires or 4 tires. Doing right side tires now. Wait and see if we get the left side here.
And the 39 car, Ryan Newman, called in aero tight. They made a track bar adjustment on that, put 4 tires and fuel, and also made an air pressure adjustment. He's away.
I'm going to tell you something. When that 2 came in, I noticed his right front tire was flat, and he locked it up so hard getting into pit lane.
That's exactly right. I mean, you looked up toward turn 4, entering the trial, but it looked like it was a huge wreck because of all the smoke coming off the tires as they got woed down. The race leader making his pit stop first of the night, going to come at lap 42, Marty.
Well, and Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth making a pit stop here together. They both joke kind of nice up here up front. The water temperatures for these guys, believe it or not, 210 degrees. Some guys in the back, 270. Neither car will have an adjustment, and it's going to be 4 tires for both of these Roush cars on pit road together, trying to leave pit road together. They have worked excellently so far, with Matt Kenseth leading every lap in the race so far.
That's how you want to come into pits and leave the pits. You want to all come out together. You get hung up a little bit in pit lane, and you lose that group of where you guys are drafting with, and it makes it a little bit tough as well.
Marty mentioned that Matt Kenseth had led every lap, led the first 41. David Reagan led a lap in this cycle of green flag pit stops. He has given it up to come to pit road, I do believe. Josh Wise now the race leader.
Now look at this outside line coming, and they've got a head of steam on them. Let's watch the 2 again, because this was pretty cool. He locked this thing up forever. And, you know, you're coming off the racetrack at 197 miles per hour. You're trying to get it down to 55 or whatever pit lane speed is. But he definitely blew that right front coming in.
Wow.
On board here with Jimmy Johnson.
Well, he got in good, though. He got to the line. He probably passed 4 guys.
Look at that.
Getting to the line. It's a good thing they changed right sides.
Yeah. That was awesome, though. I mean, when you pick up 4 or 5 positions right there coming in, that's a huge game, man. That was huge.
And through this cycle of pit stops, it is now Michael Waltrip who had been out front, and now you see it's his teammate, Martin Truex Jr., who has the point. Right behind him, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman. There's Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr., the top 5 at Daytona, as we've completed 44 laps. Perhaps you notice, like we did, the outside lane starting to make some hay, but the guys that are out there, the pair that dominated the early part of this race on the inside lane.
Yeah, and the outside lane did when there were some sticker tires coming on the outside lane, and the inside had pitted. But, you know, I don't. It's going to take a while for that outside lane to come in. It may be here by the end of the race. God only knows, but we see them making some ground right there. When you've got good cars like Biffle and those guys, and Matt Kenseth, these guys, these 2 Fords have been fast at every restrictor plate. They can make some time in that lane. I want to go back in the pack there a little bit. There's Bill Elliott again. I'm going to give him another shout out. He was running 3rd or 4th. He comes out of the pits in 15th, 16th, or 17th. That's a brand new team. That's the difference in a pit crew that's here week in and week out, and that's not here week in and week out. So when you look at things like that, it's not what Bill's doing on a racetrack. Sometimes those pit stops are a little bit slower.
And you can't lose sight of the fact that pit road plays a huge role here. You may not think it because it's Daytona, 2.5-mile track. That's not the case. It's big.
But we saw Brad Keselowski, and we saw him pick up 5 or 6 positions coming in, and that totally puts you in a different pack. All of a sudden, you've broken out of the pack that you're in, and you're in a totally separate pack when you leave pit road.
One thing about that, you know, we talked about losing that draft. The 14 and the 2 have lost a draft.
Yes.
So they're all running the same speed right now, but they're not making any gains.
Martin Truex Jr. leading this race on the inside lane, slid up in front of Greg Biffle, who's got drafting help from his Roush Fenway teammates, and they are digging in on the high side.
Kind of gives you a good look of. Oh, Kenseth is pushing water right now.
Yeah. But he's pushed this 16th on the high side. He's pushed Greg Biffle on the high side around, and that's the first time we've really seen that. And you see, they go straight to the bottom, and they hang that outside line out. It'll be interesting to see if the outside line can stay sucked up there and come back with, I guess that's Carl in the 24 car of Jeff Gordon.
I was going to say, if you want to see two of the probably strongest cars in the field, you just saw it.
You saw it.
They came up on the outside.
You saw it.
I mean, these two really have dominated. We're 1-2 at the end before Dale Jr. went around Greg Biffle in the 500. Of course, Kenseth won. And they were great at Talladega until they got separated late in the race. I'm talking about the 17 and the 16.
Now they're, yeah, I think the 17's got to get some air to the front of that thing because it got hot quick too.
But, you know, until that cycle of pit stops, Larry, the 17 hadn't been the pusher. He had been the puller out front all night.
But it's almost like Greg Biffle knows Matt Kenseth needed to get some air into the front of that car. Now, remember, unlike a year ago, these drivers can't talk to each other, but the spotters can talk to each other. I think that's the reason down the front stretch through the trial, Greg Biffle went way up and let some air get through that 17 car just for a moment.
And you can tell how strong that 17 car is. He can pull up on the back of the 16 when he wants.
Yes. He's fast, and I mean, he was fast. We saw being that fast hurt him at Talladega when we saw him break that draft from the 16 there at the end of the race coming out of turn 2. So I think he learned from that, and I think Biffle's learned from that. You know, these two guys have been, as we've said up here a couple of times already, the class of the field on the restrictor plates so far this year.
Let's get a report from Chris Neville.
Earlier, Casey Kane was worrying about his water temp when he was behind Jimmy Johnson. His spotter asked him if he could get up there and push Jimmy. He said no, water temp too high. After that last stop, Casey Kane went from 14th to 4th, just 2 tires on that stop. His concern right now, splitters hitting the ground.
Yeah, you know, it's cooled off here. I mean, these guys have done the majority of their practice and the majority of their running on this racetrack in the heat of the day. And when this thing, we talk about how much grip it had in February when they repaved it and the tire that Goodyear brought. It was a very grippy racetrack, had a lot of grip built into it. And Daytona's not any different than Chicago or Texas or any other racetrack that you pave. When it gets night and it cools off and the grip comes up, these cars are going to travel, or at least travel, they're going to travel a little bit more. Even on the bump stops, they're going to go in at a faster speed, and they're going to get on that splitter.
Keep an eye on the situation with Casey Kane as we step aside. Here's Ryan Newman, driver of the number 39 Army Chevrolet, to tell us about Goodyear's special program to support our troops. Watch tonight's race through the Goodyear in-car camera, only on NASCAR.com's TNT Race Buddy. Michael Waltrip coming up through the middle and trying to move to the outside lane. Bringing Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson with him.
I can't tell Carl just slid up or what. I mean, now he just feels like he's backing off here.
Kyle Busch right now finds himself in the 9th position. On the radio, he was talking about the 2 drivers out in front of the field.
There you have it. Anybody see how the 17, 16 work together at these plate races? That's how you're going to have to do it if you're going to beat them.
Yeah, but they've got pretty strong race cars, too.
Yes.
I mean, there's guys working together on the high side right now. They can't do what Biffle and Kenseth did. Okay, I mean, you got the 24 up there. You've seen a lot of guys, you know, Michael, all these guys got strong cars, but they can't do what those 2 cars did.
Martin Truex Jr. spent some time out front. After a cycle of green flag pit stops, he has slid into the outside lane, trying to make it work.
Easy, yeah, but Jeff's going to go to the middle.
Inside of Michael Waltrip and left the 55 hanging.
But see, and that just busts up the top lane. You know, I mean, just when you think those guys started maybe having a chance to snip to the front, all of a sudden they go 3 wide, and it just scatters everybody.
And that black 49 on the inside, J.J. Yaley, he's a lapped car, and that's why you see him sliding to the back so quickly as the lead pack drives around. 54 of 160 laps are complete at Daytona. It has been the Roush Fenway Invitational. Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle have combined to lead 48 laps, all but 6 circuits here tonight. We're going to go away for 90 seconds. More wide open coverage live from Daytona of the Coke 0400 in a moment. With our wide open coverage of the Coke 0400, powered by Coca-Cola. Race leader in this one, Greg Biffle. Matt Kenseth, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, Dale Earnhardt Jr. make up the top 5. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Jeff Gordon, and Trevor Bayne are the top 10. Speaking of the 21, let's listen to what they're saying on the radio. Here we go with Inside Tracks.
He was waiting on the pack, you know, to catch him.
Yes, sir.
And he says, go to the outside. Well, that's just giving them room to blow right by you. Why would you stay on the inside and let them duck in behind you?
I agree. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's just opening the door to get blown off.
Yes, sir.
At least they'd have to move to the outside.
And see, that's what we were talking earlier. Get down on the inside. Let them go around you. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. And that's Leonard Wood talking. And for you
Hall
fans,
of Famer.
Hall of Fame Leonard Wood, who won 1 million races and won here with David Pearson and Cale, has won races here. You think he's not still involved in that? And this Joe Fiorelli that he's talking to, the car chief, but he's explaining. In all his years of being here, this is where he thinks that Trevor needs to be.
Hey, Kyle, you drove for the Wood brothers, and I agree. Don't you think they ought to pay attention to a man that has been a part of winning 15 races here more than any other organization?
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. He stood on that pit road more than anybody else, Leonard has, and has called home those winners. And when you look at it like that, you know, when he says, this guy needs to be on the inside, I would take Leonard Wood's advice over anybody else on pit road and say, get my driver to the inside right now.
I mean, and don't forget, you're talking about a relatively still a rookie in this race car. I mean, you know, and these are things that need to be relayed to him. Say, hey, listen, next time, you know, I mean, this is always a learning process when you're coming to these places like this. You know, you see he jumped to the outside, and I think he jumped to the outside because he saw the 24 coming. Those guys have worked very well together in the past.
Yes, they have.
So I believe he was just content staying on the inside, but when he saw Jeff Gordon out there, he decided maybe we can bring up some of that old magic again.
Yes.
Matt Kenseth riding second right now behind Greg Biffle, Marty.
Well, he made his way back to the front, Adam, but it was a balance to get there. At one point, or a couple of points, Matt thought about pulling out of line because his water temperature, as you guys noted, was getting way too high. Started spewing water at one point, but he didn't want to leave his teammate Carl Edwards hanging out, so he stayed there in line. They eventually did make their way to the front and hanging out there with his teammate pushing Biffle now. Matt?
Now, Marty, during the first segment of the race, Jeff Gordon had an issue where he was running too warm. He dropped back, got a bigger cushion of fresh air, cooled off his water, and rode it to the first pit stop. Made some big gains, and then about 10 laps ago, his dash lights, which we documented earlier in the show, what they look like, started flashing red. He was too hot again. That's why you're seeing the 24 having a cushion between himself and the 21 of Bayne. He keeps dipping out, guys, trying to get more air in to cool that water temperature.
And, Matt, that's Jamie McMurray in the black car that jumped out in front of Trevor Bayne in that outside lane. You can continue to watch his progress. Witness Kyle Busch's best pit stop ever. Learn more about the reinvented 2012 Camry at toyota.com/Camry. And then once again, kind of hit that wall and unable to make it happen over in that outside lane. And it appears that McMurray just can't get up to his rear bumper. Wally, am I right?
Well, it also appears a lot of these guys on the outside are ducking for air. It's almost like it's warmer up there for whatever reason because they're not staying in line like the guys on the bottom. And it could be McMurray is, you know, running a little bit hot, and because you'll see him go left to right looking for that air. When you go left to right on the car that you're following, see these guys how they're zigzagging? That slows that line down. You're faster if you can just stay in line perfectly in the wheel tracks of the guy in front of you. But when you start messing around and looking for air and stuff like that, it will slow that line down.
Looking big picture coming into tonight's race, Casey Kane running third in that inside lane. Had a great run last week. Went from a lap down to a runner-up finish at Kentucky. Doing a nice job this evening. And, of course, he's one of those drivers right in the middle of the wild card race. Let's get a report on Kevin Harvick. Matt Yoakum.
The RCR teammates on pit road. Kevin Harvick is in. They pulled a tear off the first segment of the race. He was fighting way too free. So slight adjustment helped that. Left side tires going on. Solid stop. And he's away. Paul Menard also in there, topping him off. And they will go out together.
Jeff Burton also on pit road, and he actually had the side mirror on the left side, right by where the driver sits, come off earlier. They handed him a piece of tape on the last stop the car to lose for Burton. He said, we have to get our water temperature cooling working better, or we're not going to be able to compete tonight. All three RCR cars leave pit road, Adam.
So the scheduled service beginning, but the RCR guys coming in a bit sooner than the others. And now the leaders coming up on some lap traffic. That's Jeff Burton, who just made a pit stop, and the other RCR drivers. Terry Labonte in the silver car right behind him. Bobby Labonte, Dave Blaney, all those guys going a lap down as the leaders storm around. That'll make you a little bit antsy in the seat when you come up on lap traffic, and now we've got 3 wide through the corner.
Let's go shake things up a little bit now, especially when you come up on cars like that. It breaks the whole pack up. So then all of a sudden, the guys that were running with other guys are now forced to run with somebody else. And
First caution of the night, Sam Hornish Jr.
Looks like a tire's come apart in that thing. The way it's ripped the whole side of the car off. It's like he's had a flat tire. It doesn't appear that he's been hit. Yeah.
Sam Hornish Jr. in this race tonight. For A.J. Allmendinger, it was announced around 6 o'clock this evening by NASCAR that he had been suspended for violating the sport's substance abuse policy. Hornish had to fly in from Charlotte late this afternoon. Here's the replay.
See at the back of the screen here, at the back of the pack, you see Hornish, and you see that thing wiggle right there. It's coming apart. He chases it across the racetrack. And there, when he gets to the corner, he spins around, does a good job of keeping it out of the wall, because obviously as it landed on the backstretch, as he came down the backstretch, it came apart, and it's amazing. You see the damage this thing did when a tire does come apart.
He got to slow down to about 160 before the tire came apart.
Right.
So.
And it's still, look, it just rips the side all the way to the door, almost to the A post off the car.
And there are going to be a number of other guys that join him. Pit road is open. First 81 laps tonight, caution free. Here they come, Matt.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s guys up on the wall while they're going to go 4 tires at this juncture. Their teammate Jeff Gordon's only going to go 2. Now, Gordon, his car was a little bit overheating. Jr. says his car is really good. No changes, Ralphie.
No changes down here with Ryan Newman either, Matt. They did have an extra man go over the wall to take the tear-off off, and they're also going to give him some water. Outside of that, they're good to go, Chris.
Casey Kane saying the 5, running a bit cooler, saying the car working better too. Not using the throttle as much, not going to take as much to fill the car out. Marty?
Greg Biffle, bottom right of your screen, 2 tires for him. No changes to the car. Matt Kenseth also 2 tires. Kenseth will win the race off pit road, and there's a problem on pit road, Adam.
Something we saw in February. Brad Keselowski and Ryan Newman getting together on pit road. This is a tight place when you put them all there together.
Yeah, that's ugly. Something happened there, because you could see the rear of the 2 car.
Yeah, and a lot of it depends. When these guys are coming in late, we'll take a look. But I bet somebody was coming in while somebody was going out and got clobbered.
That's Casey Kane in the 5 car.
Oh, so Gordon got into Newman and turned him into the 5 car.
Watch this.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Gosh.
Very dangerous. And one of the 2 cars' crewmen did go down, but he appeared to get up okay.
And it's a good thing they were on the left side already, or that could have been a ton worse.
Just barely clips Newman. And as you see it, it sends him across. And look at those officials.
Maybe they were on the right side. They got out of the way.
Yeah, they did a great job there. Yeah. And you see the tire changer there on the ground. Those guys are very blessed.
Pit road is a dangerous place. And you see why right here. First caution of the night at Daytona. We'll reset the field when we return.
See if the teammates work together on this one.
I think they will, yeah. Kenseth elected the outside lane at the start as the pole sitter. Here he goes inside, and I'm guessing he's going to let Biffle pull down in front of him, if he can.
Biffle didn't get a very good restart on that deal. I mean,
he got another teammate right behind him.
Here we go. He'll slide in there on the 2nd spot. Maybe. Clear low, clear low.
Edwards doing everything he can to let Biffle in line. Kenseth's going to slide up there and pick him up. Oh, that's a little scary.
Yeah, they got it done, though, I think.
Well, the 17 right now on point, but behind him, not his wingman, Greg Biffle, it's Jeff Gordon. And then you got Kyle Busch, also the meat in the sandwich when you look at the Roush Fenway cars. 33 cars on the lead lap here at Daytona as we work the 87th of 160 laps. Jeff Gordon, damage not hurting his car right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I was gonna ask Larry about that. I think where the damage is on the left rear, Larry, I don't think that's gonna hurt him. I wouldn't be surprised if it helps him a little bit, the way that thing is. But if it was behind the rear tire, I think it would probably be a lot worse.
Well, I think one thing that put Jeff Gordon's mind at ease, there's a lot of reasons that having a teammate pays off. Under that caution, he pulled up beside Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car. Dale Earnhardt Jr. gave a thumbs up and told his crew to tell Jeff and Alan Gustafson everything looks good, shouldn't be no problem.
And you saw as a part of our wide open coverage, Jeff Gordon started the race 18th in the standings. He's 13th as they run right now. That could be a moot point, though, because he needs a race victory, and he's quite capable here at Daytona. 6 times he's gone to victory lane at this facility.
Just looking in the middle of the pack there, I see that 14 car sitting about 15th or 16th when he was long ways back before that caution.
And he was another one in the same situation as you pointed out with Brad Keselowski. On board here with Smoke. He's won 3 of the last 7 400-milers in the summer at Daytona. Haven't talked a lot about Eric Almirola tonight in the 43, running the Air Force colors this weekend. Another potential sleeper.
There you got the telemetry down there with Tony. See if he hits 200 down here going into turn 3. The green light is what you want to look at as the throttle. You get pretty much all the way around here on the throttle. You drag the brake a little bit if you have to.
It's Martin Truex Jr. leading that outside lane around. Different look for him this weekend. So we go back on board with Tony Stewart.
Yeah, they're taking a look. You look at the throttle, and then there's actually a box underneath the throttle. That's the brake. If that turns red, then you know he's laying on the brake. But these guys have got a pretty good gap in between each other. So you just you'll roll out of the throttle more than you drag the brake in this instance. See, it's just coming out of the throttle just a little bit, which just tells you he's got a lot more.
That's
when
right,
he needs
because this is a place you can run wide open.
Yeah.
But they're having to do that to monitor and modulate that temperature.
Kurt Busch bullying it up through the middle.
Goodness. I mean, Kurt Busch pulled out of the bottom lane, went to the middle, and said, "The heck with this. Let's go make it happen."
See how that car's
and
moving
every
around?
There we got trouble. Trevor Bayne into the wall. Kurt Busch trying to save it.
And you see these guys spinning behind, it's because they check up and somebody else doesn't check up. But everyone else has been hit.
That's Bobby Labonte in the 47 who went for a ride.
I told you, when you get in the middle of things, they waddle like Porky Pig over there. That's exactly what that thing did. And when he made the move off here, I mean, he was like, all right, I've had enough. I'm coming. And, man, he forced his way in the middle.
You said earlier, drivers get anxious after a while. Second caution of the night. Now let's look at it one more time.
Yeah, we'll take... Okay, here he is off of Ford. Then all of a sudden you'll see he just jumps in the middle. Now when you watch him when he goes into 1 and 2, and watch how the car starts to float. And that's a problem with these things. When you get there, you're okay right here. But when you get in the corner, all of a sudden you lose a lot of downforce on these cars. Not to mention, I mean, he got right in the middle of those guys,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he just lost the front of the car. It slid up, and he caught Trevor Bayne.
We're lucky it wasn't bigger than what it was, because he's right in the middle of the group.
And watch this. That hole kind of closes up between the 43 and the 21. He snatches it.
Yeah,
And
he turned off the
he turns
21,
off
and
the
that's what got him
21.
sideways.
Yes. As you watch it from this angle, you can see the 51 of Kurt Busch. He comes in, and we're going around this way, but you can't see. You see the thing already sideways. He goes up. They're really lucky that all these guys back here didn't get more into it. You see the 42 clip the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Denny did a great job.
Yeah, there
coming back
wasn't
up
any room to go 3 wide
No.
right, in that spot right there. That was pushing your luck. But those guys behind did an excellent job. Was that Denny Hamlin down there?
Yeah. The 11
He did a
save
really
reminded
nice
me
job.
of Kyle Busch in the Bud
Yes.
Shootout, his
Yeah.
teammate. Green flag back in the air in the Coke 0400.
That'll be interesting to see if they can clear and get down to the bottom, because trust me, they want to get back to the bottom. They don't want to stay on the high side.
And
Everybody bailed on them, too.
Yeah, and they're the only 2 guys that have
made it
come
work.
from the outside and got around those guys. But I'm going to tell you, they've got Jeff, and Jeff's been up in there right in the mix, and you've got Kyle Busch, who's been up there right in the
What's that all about?
Oh, there was a little contact there. Saw some smoke.
Holy cow, that was
It's
a
like
lot
Kyle-
of contact. He looks like he drove up and did it, just turned up
Yeah,
there.
it looked like he went up there to side, but which obviously left Jeff hanging out there, and now you've got the 16 and the 17 of Matt Kenseth exactly where they want to be.
The third of the Roush Fenway organization, Carl Edwards, now the point man in that outside lane. Dale Earnhardt Jr. right behind him.
That was almost like a you're clear kind of a move, and he wasn't.
2 drivers out front have combined to lead 89 laps tonight. And how about Carl Edwards making it happen in the outside lane? Put the 99 on point. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. liking it coming from behind, but he can't make it happen.
Yeah, he got almost out there a little bit too far out front. He didn't have the help when he needed it. It wasn't close enough.
Yeah, he kind of lost Junior as he made his move.
Yeah, he got a good push, it seemed like, up there, but he couldn't do anything with it.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. probably saw it. Outside lane, they continue to work it, and inside of him, Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch working together. Let's listen to their radio.
The 11 not staying with me is really hurting me, being able to stay with the 99 and letting people down.
I'm not sure what he really meant by that, but, again, if he's talking about distance in between the 2 cars, I mean, I think all these guys have to, because they're running so hot right now.
That's right, and I don't understand what he means by not staying with him. I mean, Denny's got a car length in between him, and he's modulating that 1 car length to a half car length back to a car length. But, I mean, there's nowhere for these guys
As he
to
goes
go.
up the middle.
Yeah,
he's had enough.
Yeah, but there was nowhere for Denny to go.
Right.
I mean, Denny was doing everything he could to be behind Kyle and help him a little bit.
The middle used to be a big problem at Daytona. We'll see how it pays off here for Denny Hamlin as he shuffles out of line. What's up, Matt?
And Denny making a good move around Dale Earnhardt Jr. now powering to the outside. After the first run, he told Darian Grubb, you are going to have to tighten up my race car. Absolutely way too free to run up in the middle of the pack. That was another reason why he dropped back. And KP and Wally, you talked about that all weekend. You've got to have your car at a certain balance, because when you get back, you lose so much air on that rear spoiler.
Yeah, the further you're up in the front of this group, the better your car's handling. There's no doubt about it. The best cars that'll handle right now are the guys that are running single file on the bottom.
Exactly, and all that move that Denny just did, all that he found out about that was, A, the middle's not going to work for me right now. I lose a position, and it screwed up Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the 14 car of Tony, who had been just barely working that outside, not really losing anything. But you see the 88 and the 14, they're all the way back here in the outside line now, 4 or 5 deep.
But But also it gets to the point where we were talking about earlier, where we're getting towards the race where you just start taking.
Yes.
You're not really starting to worry about anybody else. You're starting to get what you can get. You heck with everybody else.
That's right. You get what you can get, and at the same time, you're learning from every move you make.
Yeah.
Denny just learned, I can't pull out and go around these guys. Nobody's going to help me, and I can't get help. Even late in the race, it's not going to work.
Don't think he's real concerned about screwing up Dale Earnhardt Jr.
No, not really. Not really.
Right in the middle of that mess, Marcos Ambrose. Marty?
Yeah, Adam, talking about a guy taking all he can get. Started in the back tonight. That unapproved change for Ambrose earlier was actually the bracket that holds the window net in that attached it to the roof line. It broke. They had to weld a new piece in and then had to roll it back out on the line. So that's what happened with Ambrose. Has made his way from the back to the front. And while he's doing all this with a transmission vibration, they checked it earlier. They said, not much we can do with it. He's living with it, still making his way to the front. Very impressive night for Marcos Ambrose.
116 laps complete. Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle have led 109. Now for a few words from Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Casey Kane about a special program at Goodyear. Last time race leader Matt Kenseth came down pit road, lap 82. We're at lap 121 right now, actually working lap 122, so it won't be long before he and others have to come down the pit lane. Tell you, Denny Hamlin has not really lost much ground since he moved up to that outside lane.
Now you see he gets a good run, like off a 2 there. He got a good run, but McMurray was too far back in order to help him down the back straightaway on the draft. And it seems like it's hard for these guys to just lock in. It's like earlier we saw somebody give another guy a shot, and he got a great shot, and he passed 3 or 4 cars, but the car wasn't behind him to stay there to help pull it off on, draft-wise. So you're just not making any ground on that inside lane.
No, not making any ground. And the thing is, as we look at those first 4 cars, back to the 99, first 5 or 6 cars, back to Marcus Ambrose, these guys are being incredibly patient. I mean, they're just there. They're not getting off the bumper from the car in front of them. They're not weaving to the left, weaving to the right. They're just there. Everybody will jump out in that outside lane back about 7th, 8th, or 9th, and they're trying to make something happen, but they're not gaining on anybody.
Little dicey here as they go around the lap car. Damaged machine of Landon Castle. I'm going to give a call to your man once again. Bill Elliott hanging tough. Debut race for Turner Motorsports. They compete in the Truck Series and the Nationwide Series. Never been at the Sprint Cup level. And oh, Mr. Elliott making it happen for him here this evening. He is scored right now in the 14th position.
Who was that got loose? Man, he was the 3rd car in that outside lane.
Is it Casey Kane, maybe?
That thing got a big wiggle. Is that Tony's? No, that was Casey Kane. You're right. Yeah.
Ambrose doing a nice job hanging at the front.
Hey, guys, I think you may see some drivers stretch it a little further on this run right here. Even though we're within the fuel window, I think
we got trouble, Larry.
Coming to the tri-oval. A number of cars involved. Still spinning. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon on the grass, Regan Smith, Michael Waltrip back up through the groove, and there's Bill Elliott as well.
Yeah, and Jeff Gordon and those guys were up in the 4th, 5th, and 6th positions. So this thing, obviously, it may have started back a little bit, but it carried its way all the way to the front.
Jimmy Johnson completed 1 lap in the 500. And better in that category tonight, but similar situation to what we saw then.
Yeah, Jimmy got turned into the outside wall and hit head on in the 500, and here he's got turned into the inside wall coming out of turn 4 here, and it's a softer, it's the soft wall, it's a softer barrier, so that's a plus, but still that was a hard hit.
But these guys obviously, I think, did they hit pit lane before the flag came out?
That may be why the caution was out.
Sure
These guys were probably slowing down, and then we just get a chain reaction. It'll be interesting to see because we saw the 16 on pit road. There's no way that the 24 wrecked and the 16 got it on pit road in time.
Greg Biffle was on pit road, Marty.
Well, that's exactly the plan. Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth were coming to pit road at the time that the accident happened. They were both slowing down to come to pit road. Now, here's the interesting thing. Matt Kenseth said that he felt like pit road was closed. He went past his pit box. Greg Biffle did stop in his pit box. He took on 4 tires and fuel. We'll see if it was indeed closed and if there's a penalty coming for Greg Biffle.
See that, and that's what we're talking about. Now they're separated, and that changes everything.
That changes.
From high above, we look at what happened.
See, the 24 car is third in line right here. But you see him slowing down to come in pit road. Now, he slows down.
Yeah, Johnson got tagged.
Is it Martin Truex Jr. maybe?
I couldn't tell, but he got tagged early, though. I mean,
look at the 24 right here. The 24 is coming down pit road and gets wrecked. They run into him from the back right there. And you see these guys already on pit road. So it's really going to be interesting to see when the light comes on.
Watch how hard Jimmy Johnson hits this inside wall. I'm telling you what, those soft walls or whatever you want to call them, those things are incredible.
And we've not always had safer barrier on the inside.
I've hit walls on the inside when they weren't there. I'll tell you what, it's a shot.
Watch his tires.
Wow, when it picks up the rear wheels off the ground, that's a hit.
Jimmy Johnson, 3 restrictor plate races this year, and it appears he will get his 3rd DNF here tonight.
Yeah, you almost have to on that.
At lap 127, Matt.
And Denny Hamlin will bring the 11 car down pit road in the 2nd position. And Darian Grubb has told him, we are going to pack the fuel cell full of fuel. Go on my word, not when the jack drops. Ralph.
Same thing here, Matt. 2 tires on the right side. Don't go till I go, because they want to pack this thing full of fuel. The tires are on the right side. Now he says go. Chris.
Casey Kane was outside the top 20 after the contact with the 39 and the 24. He's worked his way up into the top 10. That car working very good. Matt, Marty.
Well, now we're going to see how good Matt Kenseth's car really is. That we went from 1st to 23rd after coming down pit road under that caution. He will take on 4 tires since they're already in the back. Pack it full of fuel, no changes. Clearly the best car all night long. Has some work to do, Adam.
Yes, he does. And Tony Stewart had his hands full coming off pit road a moment ago. We'll reset the field in a moment. First, we hear from our sponsors. It's wide open coverage tonight on TNT. Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch on the front row for the restart. 30 laps remaining. How about Brad Keselowski? Those problems earlier on pit road with damage, running in the top 5. Let's go down to Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Jimmy Johnson is out of the care center. He's talking things over with crew chief Chackenhouse. Dude, that was a hard hit. Are you okay?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, my angle at the wall was pretty forgiving, to be honest with you. So I prepared for the worst. I'm sure the in-car had a nice, cool shot of me buckling down ready for impact, but wasn't all that bad. You know, the car, unfortunately, is destroyed. But, you know, we're just not having the best of luck on these plate tracks. It's unfortunate.
Is that all about getting to pit road?
Yeah, that was. I'd waved coming down the back straightaway and through 3 and 4, motioning that I was coming to pit road. And as soon as I checked up to hit the brakes, somebody got me from behind, and around I went.
Next up for Jimmy, a triathlon tomorrow in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, man, I'm telling you what. They're itching for a wreck right here.
Yes, they are. Saw Eric Almirola getting a little bit out of shape. Right in front of him, Paul Menard drafting with Clint Boyer. Keep watching as we thank our sponsor, #NASCAR. Once you hear it first and see it instantly from insiders, it's twitter.com/#NASCAR.
I want to get back to what you're talking about, the 18. You know, you remember the part about being a jerk?
No, I'm saying
that's not being a jerk, but he's doing what he's got to do.
No, he's being a jerk, but he's doing what he's got to do. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him.
No,
that's what you have to do at this point in the race on this racetrack.
Yeah, remember when we saw it earlier when he went up the racetrack and we thought, oh, look what he's in. Well, he separated those guys, and we saw him do it just a minute ago. He goes up and separates the 17 and the 16, and he stalled those guys out at 4th and 5th.
Got to step aside. Take a local break. We're back in 90 seconds. Tony Stewart on the point at Daytona with 17 to go. We're getting down to the end in the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. NASCAR on TNT, back at the World Center of Racing, where we are under caution for the 4th time tonight. And the reason why, Brad Keselowski having a problem while running 13th on track.
Take a look. Yeah, he just gets loose right there. And that was... we saw him loose earlier in the race, and it just got worse and worse and worse. But he was really fast on the straightaway. It's like you said, Kyle, that right rear being down But that's what happened. He just
turns, and when he turns to the left, it just turns out from under him right there. Good job of everybody else kind of avoiding. Look at that thing get up in the air a little bit, where it catches in that right rear quarter panel. Is so messed up. That thing does not have any side force in the rear. As you see that quarter panel, the way that thing's caved in, it's a totally different aero car than what he's driven all week long.
And when it's like that here, it's pretty terrifying.
Pretty terrible. Look how far that bumper's driven in, and how far. Look at that thing just lift up right there.
But how good has that team done tonight, based on what the difficulties they had early?
Yeah, what this team has done, the crash on pit road, that part of, they've done a great job to get that car back in that position. And look, all he's done right here.
Clear low, clear low, clear low.
You hear spotters talking. All he's done is spun that thing around. He can go down pit road, put 4 more tires on it, and he's back in the hunt in this thing.
If you just tuned in, your timing's great, because we're about to decide what happens in the 400-miler at Daytona.
I suspect they're going to go 3 wide pretty quick here.
Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch running 1-2. Not the first time we've seen that in the late stages of a summer race at Daytona.
Well, he'll make something happen here pretty quick.
Yes, he will.
He's not one for patience.
Biffle and Kenseth still running side by side, 4 rows deep. They're not out of line and working together yet.
They're just in a place where it's going to be hard for them to get hooked back together here with 10 or 11 laps to go, unless something big happens in the 16th, and you see Matt's moving up. Matt moved up. Matt cleared and moved up in front of the 16th.
And I think Biffle just rolled out the throttle enough to give Matt some room so he could get up there.
Yeah, and that's almost what it was going to have to be. It's going to be interesting to see when they start and jump out there in that outside lane, and
they
go that outside lane.
I was going to say,
they're gone.
They don't have a lot of time left. We got, what, 11 laps to go here.
Yeah.
So you've got to get it done now.
Yeah.
It's going to take them 5 laps probably to get even with it.
Yeah. Larry said in Countdown to Green, he reiterated it a moment ago, when you get inside of 10 laps to go, don't worry about the gauges. Let's listen to the 18 radio.
All right, but once we go back green, you can bump up your temps to 260 from here on out. I'd save it the most you could, but don't be worried about going to 260 from this point forward.
They told him to shut off all of his fans. Don't worry about that temperature. Just let it all go. He's had a great race car. Kyle Busch is ready to go to the front, see if he can make a move and lock himself into a wild card position.
And I think if Kenseth and Biffle will get past whoever that guy in the middle, and they get down, now they'll make some ground up. But when they were way up on the outside, it's just that we talked about. That's a long way around this racetrack. It's hard to make up that ground.
Yeah, and they wasted almost a whole lap right there. Now this is 10 to go, but they wasted almost a whole lap right there.
9 laps to go this time around.
Keep an eye on the 18. If they get to the 18, I'm really curious to see if he starts going up the racetrack again and trying to do that side draft deal, try to separate them.
And just basically break their momentum.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what you got to do. I mean, you know, you're out here to win this race, so whatever advantage you have, take it.
If you're going to be successful at plate race, you got to multitask.
Look at that.
Here they come again. That is big-time power.
That's
Kenseth
huge.
on the outside, getting a push from Biffle. They're trying to go back to the race lead as they come off the corner.
And you saw Tony try to ease up there and get up next to that 16 and break that side draft a little bit, but it's almost like he waited too long to make that move to get up there.
Yeah, and if they clear Tony, it's going to be over.
That was a good move by Tony.
Wow, who was that?
Denny Hamlin out of shape. Here's the big one. A number of drivers involved as they come down toward turn 1.
Hold your brake there. Hold your brake.
Oh, wow, that was a ton.
This is big.
Man, was that Ambrose? Somebody hit a ton up there.
That was big. Biffle got hit a little bit and got sent back across the racetrack into the 11 car, I think is what we'll see.
Trevor Bayne, one of the drivers involved.
And the second wreck of the night for him.
Window net going
He's got caught in 2 of them.
That's a sign to safety workers that he is okay.
Wow.
Get out your pencil, because there's going to be a long list of competitors that had their night come to an end on this one. Joey Logano, Clint Bowyer, among those involved. And there's the Bowyer car.
We said earlier, when this thing gets down to this stage, It's all take and no give, and that's what happens when you get to that place. Everybody's just trying to. Did not realize that the 18 car was in it. What a great night that Kyle Busch has had until this point.
And he was the wild card leader coming into this race, was Kyle Busch.
Watch the 16, yeah.
Yes.
And Hamlin just gets a big run. Got tapped. Did he get tapped by the 5?
It was close.
It's hard to say from that angle. It almost looks like he gets the 9. Look at the 9 car go back up the racetrack. Oh.
Yeah,
David Gilliland, Dave Blaney, Martin Truex Jr. Saw Hamlin was involved. The damage for Kyle Busch, Juan Pablo Montoya.
And that's one thing, too, when these cars don't change direction very good. I think he went to turn to the left. It almost looked like Biffle maybe went down a little bit. But regardless, when you turn these cars as hard like that to avoid something, it's hard to keep it straight.
Yeah, it almost looked like I couldn't tell where the 5 car was. But it's like Denny came down across the hood, and the 11 and the 18 really looked like they got together more so than the 5 car involved. That 9 car took a tough hit. Yeah. And all these guys had no place to go because they're going. Some cars are going up the racetrack wrecking, some cars are coming down. Look at Denny right there. He changes lanes and he just barely clips the 18 and gets knocked into the 16. It almost looks like it's almost like a pinball kind of thing.
Trevor Bayne took a pretty good shot too.
Yes,
he actually took 2 of them.
Casey Mears, another name that was involved that I don't think we've mentioned yet.
It almost looked like the 11 had such a run on the 16. He came up on him so fast, he went to turn left, and when he turned left, that's when he lost control of it.
Yeah,
watch what kind of run he has.
Watch the 11. You don't see the 5 cars, so the 11. See, they hook right there.
Yeah. That was a great angle.
Yeah. That was the angle that told the story.
Casey had nothing to do with that. It says 11 changed lanes, the 18 was there, and they just barely hooked.
Here,
And Denny had a run.
Denny had a run. He was coming.
Paul Menard also with big-time damage. We'll see if we get one. Tony Stewart, no stranger to success at this track. He's won 3 of the last 7 summer races. Pace car is off. We're going green, and we're going to settle it at the World Center of Racing. Casey Kane giving a nice push to Tony Stewart in that outside lane.
This is Hendrick against Roush right here.
Yes, it is.
Ford and Chevy.
Got the RCR guys behind him. That's Burton and Harvick hooked up right behind the Roush guys on the inside lane.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they drop to the outside and make it 3 wide.
Yeah, and 2 to go. Nobody's looking at a single gauge in these cars.
No.
Man, nice run down the back straightaway on the inside for those Roush guys.
And that yellow helped a lot.
Yes.
With the 3 laps to go. They got the temperatures down.
So here's your tandem racing for everybody at home right now. This is what it was last year.
Coming down through the tri-oval. Once we get the white flag, the next flag will end it, whether it's the caution or the checker. And side by side with a lap to go at Daytona.
And these guys are going to run. They're going to be leaning on each other going down the backstretch.
Oh, my God.
We got somebody sideways. Wow, Burton did an unbelievable job saving that race car.
Amazing save by Jeff Burton.
Now we got the 14 out there all by himself, but he got a big push to get away from those guys.
Tony Stewart pulling down in front of Matt Kenseth. And Kane with a little charge in the outside lane.
That's the break that Tony needed right there.
This is going to be... They're
stacking up. They're stacking up.
Through turns 3 and 4
here we go.
for the final time. Big crash behind the race leader, Tony Stewart. That's going to allow smoke to pull away. What's going to happen behind him? Can Burton get there? No, he can't. Tony Stewart wins it at Daytona.
We'll take that.
Great finish.
From 42nd to the win.
Great move by Jeff Burton right there. I tell you,
that was a
great race by Jeff Burton. I'm telling you. Incredible save and incredible job to put him in position. And, you know, Matt's just where he's got to be. But Casey Kane deserves a lot of credit for that, too. Pushing that 14 and getting him in the right position.
Did you see the water spitting out of that thing, man?
Up,
I mean, he sacrificed his engine right there.
We told you in Countdown to Green, it's all going to come down to the final lap, and it did not disappoint once again.
Way to drive that thing. I might figure it out one day.
That's incredible.
Dale Earnhardt won 34 races here. That's more than anybody when you go across all the series. Second on that list at this track, Tony Stewart. Tonight, he collects his 18th checkered flag. And it's his 4th in this race in the last 8 years. And oh, by the way, now he's got 3 wins, joining Brad Keselowski. How huge will that be when we head to the playoffs in September? Did get a report that Marcus Ambrose, involved in that earlier accident, hard hit, has walked from the infield care center. And it appears that everyone that was involved in this accident coming to the checker has been able to walk away. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s window net is down. There you see him walking across the infield.
Yeah, these guys won't even probably ride in an ambulance. That's what you got to do once you wreck if you can't drive your car back.
Everybody got their money's worth tonight.
Now watch the 14 car. Gets a huge shot here.
Watch his 17 go in the corner. He takes 2 handfuls. This thing goes down. You see him right there.
He's got the 16 is leaning on him.
Leaning on him, just leaning. And when they separate, that 14 car had just enough go to get around him, clear him, and pull over in front of him and block.
And like you said, the 5 car gave him such a shove in 1 and 2 right there.
And look at the 5 car coming. Yeah. Because the 17 and 16 had to hook back up again. And then as we get down in here, these guys are right on him. 17 wants to go up. He goes up. The 16's right there. He just... It looked like Matt comes down and gets into the 16 and knocks him down.
How many times have you seen it at Daytona? Someone's coming to the checker flag, and they're everywhere, scattering in the tri-oval behind them.
I tell you, Harvick did a good job, too, because Earnhardt was in the back of Harvick, actually turned Harvick down on the apron, and just about had it saved. Yes.
Earnhardt took a hard lick to the outside wall. He got turned to the outside. You see him right in the middle of the race.
So did
back
Harvick.
Into the outside again.
Yeah, Harvick took a shot, too. See the 29 go down?
Yes.
And then the 16 gets hit by the 17 and gets into Harvick.
Wow. It just closes up.
Was that Newman on the bottom? No, that was
Eric
Almirola. He was just driving along, thought he had it missed.
Jamie McMurray, Kyle Busch, some of the other drivers involved. Travis Kvapil, there's Jeff Gordon driving through the grass. NASCAR on TNT, back at Daytona International Speedway. It's all wrapped up in the Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. And I know it's cliched with the fireworks going off in the sky. The fireworks were on track, and now they're in victory lane to Matt Yoakum.
Back in the seats and opening Budweiser shootout. Tony Stewart lost a heartbreaker at the finish to Kyle Busch. Smoke always special to win at Daytona, but walk me through that final lap when everything got jumbled.
I don't even remember what happened that last lap. We just in that second lane and just tried to get the 17 and 16 pulled apart. And once we got them pulled apart, it gave us a run on the outside. So it shows what Mobil 1 lubricants and oils can do for you. Just so good on restarts, and just a weird day. These races, I'm still voting for a figure 8 race here.
42nd to first. Not one, not twice, not 3 times, but this is your 4th Midsummer Classic, the Coke Zero 400 win. What's this one mean to you?
Well, anytime you win at Daytona, it's special, but the Chevy was awesome, had great Hendrick horsepower, and everybody at Stewart-Haas Racing did an awesome job this weekend. I'm really, really proud of our organization. If it weren't for the cap blowing off the Nakaduck, we would have been 2nd and 3rd qualifying, and I'm really, really proud of that. So really proud of this Mobil 1 Office Depot team and everybody at Coca-Cola and U.S. Army, Quicken Loans, GoDaddy, Aspen Dental, Outback Steakhouse, everybody that's a part of this program. They just, Gene Haas and everybody at Haas Automation are the ones that got got this started. So thanks to all those people.
So Rick Hendrick, one of your corporate partners, poked his head in the window. What did he tell you?
Can never tell that. So he just said good job. So thanks to all of our fans. It's it's been a long, hot 4th of July. We know that, and appreciate all the fans that stuck it out tonight. It's been a long, hot couple days for them, and we got the toughest fans in the world.
I think the only thing difficult for Tony Stewart, the confetti in victory lane. Marty?
Well, I guess it's a good thing when you're disappointed to finish third. Matt Kenseth clearly the best car tonight. Was it just that the top line would not move enough to get you guys up to where Tony and those guys were?
It's just disappointing. Whenever you have the best car, me and Greg, I thought did, and you didn't win. But I don't know. It seems like we made the wrong moves at Talladega by not keeping Greg with me good enough and getting separated. And today, I think I shouldn't have worried about it. Once we got separated off of 2 and I was under Tony, I think I should have just stayed with him and tried to race him to the finish. But anyway, I tried to slow up and grab my teammate that's been helping me so much all night. And we started getting hooked together, and Tony was going slow, and I went to go outside of Tony, and then everybody wrecked behind me. I'm not sure what happened.
You told me when you got out of the car that you need to figure this out. Is it something you're beating yourself up over, or what?
Well, I don't know. It's just a different kind of racing. You can always second guess your moves all night long, but I thought we did good to get back to the front after the unfortunate caution, and I thought we were in perfect position. I thought it kept Greg with me perfectly for a lap and a quarter there, and then that last lap it gets crazy. Everybody gets shoving, and you don't really know what's going on 2 or 3 rows behind you. So did the best I could. It's just disappointing we came up short because these guys gave me an awesome car.
Clearly a dominant car for Matt Kenseth. He finishes third tonight.